This is AP Statistics Chapter 8, and in this video we're going to focus on binomial distributions, and this is probably one of the hardest parts of Chapter 8 just because it's the newest thing. And so when we discuss binomial distributions, there's a few conditions that go along with it, and so the conditions are, the first is that there's a fixed number of trials. The second is that the trials are independent. So if we were, say, doing, cards or something, you would have to replace, so the trials are independent, not dependent. And so then the third is that each trial has a success or a failure. There's no in between. And then the fourth is that the probability of success is the same for each trial, and that kind of goes along with the trials are independent. And so the formula for this is nk p to the k times 1 minus p n to the minus k. And so how you would kind of set this up is n is equal to the number of trials and k is equal to the number of successes. And so here we have 10, let's say out of our 10 trials, 7 are successes, and let's say the probability of a success is 0.2 and the probability of a failure is 0.8. That's kind of how you would set it up. And what's really helpful for binomial distributions when you're calculating it, it is possible to do it by hand, but that involves kind of factorials and stuff like that. So it's a lot easier to use a calculator. In the next couple slides, I'm going to show you how to do that. So there's a few examples I'll give you when you would use a binomial distribution. And let's say the first one I would say is your classic binomial is tossing a coin. For some reason, statisticians love to use like the heads or tails kind of situation. And so your second one, you might have rolling a die. And so you're going to want to recognize that they're binomial because there will be a fixed number of trials. And then these two things are independent. And then also there's either a success or a failure. So here, a success could be getting at heads. And then the failure is if you get tails. And then here, a success could be getting an odd number. Here, a failure would be getting an even number. And so how you do this on a calculator is you're going to go to, I believe it's second vars. And then you're going to scroll down till you get A, capital A, which is binomial PDF. And then there's also B is binomial CDF. And the difference between these two is that on a calculator, binomial PDF stands for probability distribution function. In here, binomial CDF stands for cumulative distribution function. So when you think you have the C here, cumulative, that means you're adding up, so that's the probability of success of that number or less. And for this PDF, it's just that number. So, and then N is going to be the number of trials, P is the probability, and K is the number of successes. And then here I thought I'd just end it with some important formulas to know. This is your binomial distribution. This is your mean, or your expected value. So it's going to be the number times probability. This is standard deviation. This is the mean of a proportion of a population. So it's just going to be P. And then this is the standard deviation when you're also using a proportion. So it's really important to distinguish these two formulas because they both involve standard deviation and the lowercase sigma. And so for this one, you're going to use it when you have a sample proportion proportion. And this is when you have a sample that's just like X. So yeah, that's binomial distributions.